actually think that what we ought to do is to decriminalize drugs.
That means shoot first. Who cares about the citizens?
The injustice that has been propagated against the black community in this country is horrifying.
46% of all federal prisoners are nonviolent drug offenders. I want to end the injustice. We need universal health care. We need tuition-free college and tech school. We need guaranteed living wage. We need guaranteed sick pay.
The Democrats are indeed having a primary, despite the DNC's attempt to mostly censor the other candidates, of whom there are Marianne Williamson, Cenk Uygur, and Dean Phillips. Well, they managed to get some TV time in a Democratic debate where Joe Biden was invited but couldn't show up to discuss how they differ from the Biden presidency and why they think they're the better candidates. There's a few clips that I want to highlight from this debate, and I do believe that hearing other perspectives is important, and we'll start with Marianne and how she sees herself differing from Joe Biden.
President Biden is trying to alleviate the stress of millions and millions of Americans who are living at the effect of an unjust economy. I want to end the injustice. He will do whatever he can to make life a little better for people, but only until the point where to go any further would challenge the profit maximization goals of the donor and billionaire class. We need fundamental economic reform. We need universal health care. We need tuition-free college and tech school. We need guaranteed living wage. We need guaranteed sick pay. We need paid family leave. We need a fundamental economic U-turn in this country.
She is absolutely right here. I mean, Joe Biden is a moderate Democrat at best, and he's also still a capitalist. Even in a lot of the ways that he promised to remove these financial strains, he's failed, like means testing the student debt relief that allowed it to be blocked in the Supreme Court, and then him running on having a public option for healthcare and completely ignoring to put one in place when elected. Marianne represents a true progressive in this election, someone who wants to fight to remove the profit motive out of things that are necessities to survive and should be human rights. It's an amazing thing to see, and it's why she will always have my vote. But next I wanted to touch on Cenk Uygur and some comments he had on immigration.
I would send an army of judges to the border because the number one issue is processing the asylum claims quicker. And the other thing that you have to do is you have to stop the flow of the migrants. And how can you do that? By doing a Marshall Plan for Latin America. It worked. We don't have a migrant problem from Germany and Japan and Turkey and Greece because we did a Marshall Plan and their economies grew and they became our strongest allies and our strongest friends. We could do the same thing in Latin America. Right now, Venezuela is a disaster. That is why so much more people are coming to the border because a lot of them are coming from Venezuela, which they didn't used to.
I think he's spot on here. You send more help to process these claims faster, get people into America and contributing to the economy, and then you send money to the economies of the countries we see high rates of people fleeing from, and also remove the sanctions we have strangleholding them. And as their economy grows, you will see the amount of migrants dramatically drop. This is what happened in European countries. We don't see migrants from Japan. That is because we did things like this for them after World War II. He put it pretty well. A Marshall Plan is pretty much just a global plan to refuel an economy, whether through sending aid, removing trade barriers, whatever is needed to get them back to normal. And the effects are clear when you look at these European countries, a lot of which are beating us in a lot of metrics. But back to Marianne next, this time on the fentanyl crisis.
I actually think that what we ought to do is to decriminalize drugs. I think we should end America's war on drugs. It has not solved the problem in any way. It has exacerbated it. We've spent $1 trillion on the war on drugs. When I was in college, we had 300,000 people in prison. We now have 2.3 million, and 46% of all federal prisoners are nonviolent drug offenders. They should be home raising their children. Why do I mention this? Because once we decriminalize drugs, once we end the war on drugs and take that $100 billion that we spend a year, and let's spend a fraction of that every year on a network of recovery options. I don't want a drug czar. I want a recovery czar. We're going to help addicts recover. What's then going to happen? We are going to, by doing that, be taking power away from the drug cartels.
I really like her perspective here. I just wish she would have prefaced it with the fact that most fentanyl comes across the border from American citizens, but the data does clearly show that severe punishments does not prevent crime, as most criminals are not even considering the punishment when committing the act. And research also shows that there is no effect specifically specifically in lowering drug use with high crime or high punishments. However, rehabilitative services do have both a statistical effect and benefit on drug use and crime. So the best way to take the power from the cartel is to treat the disease that they are profiting off of. Next, I want to go to defunding the police, and I'm going to let a little of each of their perspectives play.
I think the name was a mistake. And look, I come from Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered, a city in which we mistook quiet for peace. Biggest problem I think this world faces right now. We think if it's quiet, everything's just fine. It's right below the surface. The injustice that has been propagated against the black community in this country is horrifying, and we have to acknowledge it.
We never changed the culture of policing in this country. That's the #1 problem. You know what the saying is, better to be judged by 12 than carried out by 6. Every police department says that, and that is actually a terrible slogan. That means shoot first. Who cares about the citizens? Better to protect yourself than to protect the citizens. So that is the exact opposite of what cops should do.
The issue is not how much money you spend. The issue is the training and, as Cenk was just saying, the culture. Our police, if you look at how our police are trained compared to, let's say, a country, some of the European countries, where people spend much more time in training, 2 years as opposed to what might be 6 weeks here, and are taught to de-escalate. We go so quickly for lethal force.
I think each one of them had a pretty fair take here. I agree the name of defunding the police is pretty counterproductive. We have to take a page from right-wingers' books here. I mean, they never say defund the teachers, but that's what they've been doing for years. It's about the means to convey the message, and the message is mainly on where the money is being spent. We don't need things like Cop City, militarized police, more police in black or impoverished neighborhoods, better weapons for police. We don't need more training, more cops on the ground. What we need is better training, constant retraining on things like de-escalation, specialists to help with mental health and crises like that where police might not know what the right thing to do is, more time spent in the academy. It's about retooling the budget more than draining it dry. And I think that when we do so, we'll realize that we have a lot of unnecessary funds going there that could be better repurposed elsewhere. Housing, healthcare, social security, to name a few. If you enjoyed this video, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that could interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video, because the only way we become a society is together.